Who jumped up really well on the inside. Castletown is next. Get With It back in fourth position as they head up to the water jump once again in front of the grand.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We would like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine's 2023 Thoroughbred Stakes program has more than $17 million in purses, including 39 graded stakes, 5 Grade 1 events, and 2 $1 million classics, the King's Plate and the Woodbine Mile. Woodbine, now through December, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning, the day after the Triple Crown has now wrapped up. I'm not sure we have any clarity in the 3-year-old picture after the Belmont Stakes yesterday, but it was a great day of racing. No question, a great couple days of racing down there after things got canceled on Thursday, but that shifts a lot of that action to today, and so we'll still be able to pick up on that. But as usual, after a big day, reached out to our friend and colleague Steve Byk. He's been down at Belmont all week long, leading into the weekend, doing the radio show. And so he was there all week for workouts and whatnot, and also there yesterday as well. Steve, good morning.
Seth, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
And before we get into specifics, just talk about the week itself. It was a little funny, obviously, with the air quality cancellation down there on Thursday. I had talked to you on the radio on Wednesday and said Tuesday and Wednesday here in upstate New York, it was very noticeable. Looking online and on television, it certainly seemed like the air quality was suffering mightily down in the New York City area also midweek. And so Thursday was canceled. But yesterday and Friday, it seemed like the weather cleared out nicely and there was great racing. Just give us a little overview of the weekend.
Tuesday and Wednesday, when the fire smoke reached the downstate essentially and kind of rolled in, it was noticeable. In fact, Tuesday night we walked in. I was with the Siakas. We went for dinner, and an hour and a half later we walked out, and you could smell smoke, which hadn't been the case previously. It would kind of ebb and flow. Wednesday, I think everybody saw the visuals from Manhattan and the orange sky. That was the worst of it. It was never as bad on Long Island as it was over the city. And I understand why they canceled Thursday for visuals and, to basically accede to the external pressures. But it was okay to run, frankly, on Thursday. The number, this air quality index, everybody became an expert in 72 hours about air quality index. And I think we would have been all right. But then on Friday, it was absolutely glorious, as was yesterday. And it was very noticeable, Seth, particularly yesterday with the big crowd. I think a lot of people actually kind of came out for a fabulous day because they had been inside all week. And it was a wonderful atmosphere there yesterday, and a huge crowd of young people. I mean, there were 20-something and 30-somethings absolutely thronging the track apron. I was sitting in the box level and right on the front row, and I was really impressed. And everybody had a great time when they brought in the singer for New York, New York. Everybody was singing and swaying hands, and it was really a terrific day of racing that obviously was marred in the 13th, but otherwise just a terrific couple of days. Everything came off beautifully.
Yeah, and sitting in here in the studio and doing television yesterday and watching the simulcast signal, I was envious of you and everybody down there because they had that wire cam like they have up at Saratoga now that kind of floats over the paddock. And so you were seeing the crowd around the paddock, and you were getting a sense of young people and a big crowd. And it looked like an absolutely, gorgeous and fun day. And it was supported by some great racing as well. And let's get into it. Let's talk about the highlight of the weekend. One of the highlights on the New York calendar, the last jewel of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes. We'll watch it unfold here. And it will be capping what was a day of nice performances and nice stories. Another story with Arcangelo getting it done. Javier Castellano gets his Belmont Stakes, kind of bookends the Triple Crown for Javi, and Jenna Antonucci becomes the first woman to win a Triple Crown race. So a nice story there. Nice performance by Arcangelo to win. Chart margin is a length and a half, a buyer figure of 102 at 7-1. Forte, nice performance, and he probably still is the leader in a lot of people's minds. I don't know if we voted today whether the resume would it be enough, but he's certainly on performances and consistency off the big layoff to run second. Did very well. Tapit Trice, I thought, ran well. Disappointment for me, I used Angel of Empire on top, and that one dead heats for fourth. I was clearly disappointed with that performance, but give us your impressions of the Belmont Stakes.
Well, the story with Arcangelo is pretty remarkable, and the way in which Jenna Antonucci recognized that this was a horse that was going to continue to benefit from the stretch out, to put him in the Peter Pan off the maiden win, that was really an aggressive and a masterful stroke. He responded with the Peter Pan win. The Peter Pan for years was a traditional avenue to get a horse like this, a lightly raced, late starting horse, to the Belmont Stakes. And he responds. Son of Arrogate, that is part of the story I think that people are going to talk about this week. I know I will with Sid Fernando. The industry kind of robbed of Arrogate as a stallion. For him to get a classic winner in this first crop, it's really amazing. A modest purchase when, Arrogate had just getting started, and, a lot of his horses sold inexpensively with this group. Really amazing. And the stretch out was perfect for him, the 1.5 miles. But this is not just a horse that, is going to be successful at a 1.5 miles because he's already got the 1 1/8 mile win. Not only does he have the 1 1/8 mile win, it came, one turn. So this is a versatile horse that is not a slow plodding Belmont winning type. I'm obviously the way in which he won in the open length victory showed, pretty much that he was dominant. You talk about Tapit Trice, who had been everybody's Belmont darling. Louis Saez with an embarrassing, I mean embarrassing 5/8 of a mile left. I don't know where he thought he was riding, because that you're not supposed to make that move for another 1/4 of a mile. Then he says, he got the flattened out. Yeah, he flattened out because you moved a 1/4 of a mile early. So anyway, but I don't think Arcangelo was getting beat, period. He was just terrific in there. It really is an amazing sequence to think about Javier, rounding out his Triple Crown resume with a Derby and a Belmont. Johnny rounding out his Triple Crown resume with a Preakness. Bill Mott getting his first Met Mile. You talk about the Jenna Antonucci. I mean, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want this to be about, a woman, and she gave a lot of credit to her entire team. But it's really a career-defining moment for her. She's kind of a journeyman trainer, and has been on the racetrack her whole life. It really did a phenomenal job with this horse. It's a tremendous story.
Yeah, no question about it. And she was, after the race, they interviewed her, obviously, and she was thanking the team and the owner and whatnot. All great to see. This was only career start number 5, wins the Belmont very nicely, cutting the corner at the top of the stretch. Again, I don't think the blinkers were beneficial to Angel of Empire. That one a little bit of a disappointment, but continues a 3-year-old season where we're still waiting for somebody to kind of step up and really grab the title, and that'll play out over the summer now. Jim Dandy, Haskell, Travers, Pennsylvania Derby. And then I've said now for a few weeks, I think we're really going to define the class maybe later in the year when they start to face older. We'll see, who's going to rise to the top here. But again, it was definitely a nice story with Jenna Anthony. I read online also, this was with the 40th anniversary of Julie Crone winning the Belmont Stakes. So that added to it as well. But you mentioned, and
she was on.
Go ahead.
She was on with me. She was on with me this week on Tuesday.
Oh, very good.
We went over Colonial Fair.
Yeah, very good. You've got a little time limitation, so I'm going to go around and pick up some of the highlights from the last couple of days and get some comments there. And you've already alluded to one, and Bill Mott getting his first Met Mile, but that was just part of the story. Obviously, Cody's Wish continues on this incredible run and a good story in and of himself. But as Bill Mott said, not just a good story; it's a good story tied in with a good horse. We're going to watch the stretch run here. It will be Cody's Wish number 1 over Zandon, running second, White Abario third, Charge at fourth. But Cody's Wish with a 3 1/4 length victory and a 112 buyer figure. This was a phenomenal performance from just a horse who's, as I say, has become a great story, but absolutely agree with Bill Mott, tied in with a very good horse. Your thoughts on Cody's Wish in the Met Mile? And again, this isn't the Met Mile we're watching right now, so we'll pull that up for you.
He's clearly the best horse in training right now, and I think they've got to decide what mountains they want to climb. To me, the logical thing to do, based on this kind of a performance, I think you got to try him in the Whitney and try him in a 1 1/8. And if that works, you think about the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Jockey Club Gold Cup and the Breeders' Cup Classic. I'm blown away by his progress. He's now a 5-year-old, and he is reaching his peak. It's amazing. He's the best horse in training. Period. There's not a lot of hyperbole to add to it. Quite something.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It was again, a magnificent performance, one continuing a nice win streak as well, and another one of the really nice performances and nice stories on the day also. One of the other nice performances on the day, and I told you before we went on the air, I saw you in the paddock before the Jaipur. You were talking to Lee Einseidler. I had used Casa Creed on top. I thought get the 3-peat maybe in the Jaipur. He comes up a little short. Looked good in the stretch, just came up a little bit short. But Caravel, yikes. I mean, she is on a win streak of her own. We'll watch the performance here. Caravel is going to be the number 12 horse, and we'll get it done in the Jaipur. Big Invasion winds up just edging Casa Creed for the second spot. But give us some of your thoughts on the Jaipur and the performance by Caravel.
Well, Caravel, if she's going to rate like that, she's going to be a big problem the rest of the year. And what Brad Cox has done with her, what he has fashioned with her, is remarkable. She is another horse that's getting better as a mare, and I was a little disappointed in the choice of a number of other riders. She was supposed to get plenty of pace pressure, and she didn't. Yeah, there one horse went, nothing better, who did figure to go, and everybody else, snatch and grab. And I was shocked that nobody else wanted to go and contest the pace. And as a result, she ends up with a garden trip. To her credit, she didn't stop in the last quarter mile, so nobody could reel her in. I think Luis Saez, when it came to Casa, he ended up choosing to stay about mid-pack and stay in touch with the field, and it kind of blunted Casa's late run. And Big Invasion is the one who ended up making the late run, and you see how he closed in, but he wasn't going to get to her either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she is a terror. And I don't see what stops her right now from marching her way to Santa Anita and a Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint repeat.
Yeah, you would think. She gets a 102 buyer, so a nice performance from her. A little earlier on the card, again, the 3-year-olds kind of trying to sort themselves out, and I'm going to be interested to see what Baffert and company do going forward out of the Woody Stevens with Arabian Lion. Came out of the victory in the Sir Barton, an impressive victory in the Sir Barton back on Preakness weekend, and follows it up yesterday in the Woody Stevens. Arabian Lion's going to be the number 3 horse here. 13 Gru's Gold second, 12 Gilmore runs third. But Arabian Lion, a 109 buyer. Give us your thoughts on the win in the Woody Stevens. And again, inserts himself now into the 3-year-old conversation.
It's a tough decision, I think, that they're going to have to make. This is Justify's first Grade 1 winner. And, a horse wins like this, you think to yourself, do we work our way toward the Alan Jerkins, or do we go ahead, a guy like Baffert, knowing how he uses the Haskell, do you point for the Haskell with him and stretch him out right now? It's going to be an interesting question. I'm looking forward to some response on that front from Baffert and team. This, of course, a horse that Gary Young bought for Hammer Zidane, and basically, fulfilling a lot of promise with a Grade 1 win. The horse behind him that ran very well and got bet like he was going to run well was Jim Chapman's Drew's Gold.
Yeah.
He himself 4 for 4 going in. I said all week, the least known undefeated horse in America, and he ran terrific and really hung in there when Arabian Lion came calling. So nice Woody Stevens. It's always fun. The 3-year-old 7/8 division. We'll watch, toward who else turns back. There'll be some other classic trail type horses that turn back, pointing for the Alan Jerkins. But always satisfying. The Woody, the former Riva Ridge, nice edition of it.
Yeah, no question about it. And again, in a 3-year-old year so far, that a little bit undefined, that horse comes out as a player. And before we let you go, I also want to hit on the Phipps, because that was another nice performance from Clairiere. We'll watch the stretch run here. I've liked her for quite a while, and so I was on board yesterday. I mean, as was the betting public. But Clairiere, once again, impresses with a big late run. She's the number 6 horse, and it looks like when search results gets moving, number 2, it's going to be tough to run that one down. And we're watching them go past the 8th pole here. And Clairiere still has a lot of work to do, but she gets up. Chart margin is half a length. She winds up with a 101 buyer figure. This was again, one of a bunch of nice performances on the afternoon. Your thoughts on Clairiere and the Phipps?
Well, there's a few stories involved here. And Steve Asmussen, with these kinds of fillies and mares, is as good as there's ever been. And I thought search results was going to be tough to run down for all the guff that Joel Rosario has been taking. I thought the way in which he nabbed search results in the late stages, that is not easy to go run a horse down in space. I say this all the time. A jockey has to really know what he's got under him when you're going to go and pick off a horse that is open lengths in front of you with, a very defined amount of ground left. So a terrific job by Joel Rosario. And let's also make note that Phil Bauer, he followed up the Grade 1 win at Churchill with another Grade 1 placing for Mr. Rigney's Played Hard. And I was very happy for Phil Bauer to come to New York. He comes with a loaded wagon. He's been teaching everybody that about him and his horsemanship when it comes to Saratoga. And for him to get a Phipps win or a Phipps placement with her, she's going to be on the distaff scene the rest of the way. 5 major horses in that race, and they're going to keep mixing it up all summer long.
Yeah, we'll see him up here at Saratoga, obviously, the personal answer. And just want to hit on one more before we let you go, because I wanted to go back to Friday and get thoughts on the Acorn. As I say, the 3-year-old males may be a little juggled up at this point, but I think with the win in the Acorn yesterday, on Friday, adding to the win in the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks, pretty mischievous. Takes the lead in that division. We'll watch the stretch run to the Acorn here, and it's going to be a nice duel. Number 6, pretty mischievous, gets it done, but just by a head over Darth Vader, a cult 3rd, Money's Gold 4th. But as I say, following up the win in the Kentucky Oaks, Brendan Walsh gets it done with Godolphin's Pretty Mischievous on Friday in the Acorn. Your thoughts?
Well, and once again, excuse me, once again in here, this filly who looked just as good coming in all week as she did going into the Oaks. And she didn't take control of the division with this win. She's had control of the division, and the Oaks win following up off of the Fairgrounds. I mean, she is absolutely the leader in the clubhouse. Dorth Vader in the first start for George Weaver, and the George Weaver barn is hitting on all cylinders. And I got a feeling part of that is how well wife Cindy is doing. Cindy is going to go with George to Royal Ascot.
Nice.
With the Bregman horse that No Name Mets, and every horse George Weaver is sending out is running lights out. Dorth Vader is really a wonderful story this whole winter and spring, and Mike Welch deserves a ton of credit. Welch was warning everybody about her going back to the Devona Dale when people cashed at 40-1. She has followed it up with, she had sort of a dirtied up good effort in the Oaks, and now she gets a tremendous grade 1 placement here again. So I'm a fan, Dorth Vader, and she helped boost the Exacta in there, but Pretty Mischievous, been a fan of really all spring. That was terrific. Friday was great. You got a really good price on market segmentation in the New York. That was probably the best value. I guess her and Arcangelo were the two, nice square prices. We didn't mention Up to the Mark, who was obviously, the leader of the domestic American turf distance horses. That was really impressive, the way he won the Manhattan.
Yeah, and I'm looking. You posted the buyers. I'm looking at your tweet here. Yesterday, stakes were all triple-digit buyers, and on Friday, in Italian with a 103 buyer. She was impressive as well on the weekend.
Yeah, then there was Siskany in the Gold Cup, who basically William Buick just he just toyed with that field. He could have won by 15 lengths.
All right, Steve, we'll let you go, but always appreciate the day after visit, the boots on the ground visit, as it were, and did a great job, obviously, all week long leading into it, live down there from Belmont Park, and expect plenty of recap action coming up over the next couple of days on the radio show. But once again, appreciate the visit. Travel home safe. Say hello to Tina. We'll talk later on.
You can say hello to Tina right here. She's sitting next to me. We're in Manhattan. We're going to a show later.
Oh, nice.
We're going to Neil Kleinberg's, going to Clinton Street Baking Company for brunch right now, and we got a full day as a follow-up to Belmont Day.
Excellent. That's what you got to do. Good morning, Tina, and have fun.
Just pulled it.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
I'm watching him drive.
Oh,
thanks. Talk to you this week.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk to you later in the week. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Steve Byk, and again, check out the radio show this week. He'll do a great job recapping all of the action, bringing in all of the major players for thoughts and reactions. So always worth the listen there. And we appreciate, as I say, the little recap of the action as Steve was there live all week long. All right, I'll take a break. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Tony Calo, our regular Sunday visit, taking a look at Monday action at Finger Lakes. That'll be a little bit later on, but we'll come back from this. I'll hit on some of the stakes recaps that I haven't looked at yet and more right after this. Stay tuned. It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse. Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now. Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Just went through some of the stakes with Steve Byk, who again was at Belmont all week long doing the radio, and there yesterday obviously as well. So we caught up with him on and talked some of the major storylines and stakes, but some of the ones that we didn't look at, we'll go back and take a look at. Steve mentioned it, alluded to it, and it was a very big performance. We'll take a look at the Manhattan. I had Up to the Mark on top, and Up to the Mark, I wasn't alone, 8-5 favorite. And then underneath, I had the 4 and the 5. Ottoman Fleet, who I thought between the Appleby horses was the more preferred. Ottoman Fleet, number 4. Soldier Rising, I had in the 3rd spot. That's the number 5 horse. And again, Up to the Mark is the number 8. This is a nice stretch run. He winds up with a 105 buyer in here. But Soldier Rising at 16-1 is going to just get my exacta here. I was online. You can see on the inside, just boom, he's just going to get that. I was playing a little online handicapping contest with exactas, and this one helped me wind up in 2nd place and make a little money. It was very little money, but it was enough to be happy at the end of the day. And I hit, you box up 3, and I had all 3 of these boxed up, the top 3 finishers. But it was the difference of 8-5 over 2-1 versus 8-5 over 16-1. So this was a much preferred result with Soldier Rising just getting up. But it was a nice performance. Obviously, I was looking at that duel running second given the contest I was playing in. But up front, it was a very big performance from Up to the Mark. Pletcher, Rapoli and Company coming off a win in the Turf Classic down at Churchill with a triple-digit buyer. Had run 3rd in the Maker's Mark Mile just before that. Now, yesterday was win number 5 and career start number 10. And as I say, pairs up the triple-digit buyers with the very solid 105 yesterday after the 103 last time. So this is a horse moving in the right direction. Again, given the connections, Pletcher, Rapoli and Company, I would expect we'll see this one up at Saratoga. I mean, there are options. The Arlington this year, that gets run at Colonial. Again, being New York connections, I would think we will see this one up at Saratoga. Also, yesterday, we'll take a look a little bit earlier on the card at the Brooklyn. The Brooklyn, a couple of miles. A mile and a half on the dirt, $250,000 up for grabs, and it will be Next getting it done. I had Next in the mix. I had that one down in the 3rd spot. I was looking for performances coming out of the Murphy down at Churchill Downs, and Next was one of that trio. I just had them juggled up a little bit differently. The number 2 Red Run was the one I had on top, and he comes back. He was in the mix early, and he comes back to get up just for 3rd. The number 9 Calibrate runs 2nd. I did not use that one. As I say, I was using 3 out of the Jim Murphy, including the number 7 Warrant. That one wound up running 4th, but it was Next. Next had run 3rd in the Jim Murphy, but that was the seasonal debut. Had ended last season. This is a horse that's kind of interesting. Had shown a little promise earlier in the career on the turf, but as the horse ended last year, went a mile and a half in an off the turfer down at Delaware and won it very nicely with triple-digit buyer. Then they went over to Keeneland and tried a mile and 5/8 and won that very nicely with the triple-digit. So it seems like, and then the seasonal debut, the Murphy at a mile and a half, ran 3rd. But it seems like, now late in the 4-year-old season and now in the 5-year-old season, they found out this horse is a marathoner. and proved it again yesterday. Next, getting it done with a 103 buyer figure. So again, a long-winded runner that took them a while to maybe kind of figure it out, but it seems like they have now. And there are spots on the American racing calendar where you can kind of get that distance that your horse wants and needs. So we'll see where the horse kind of floats around going forward. All right. Also yesterday, the poker, grade 3, couple $100,000 going a mile. I took a little pop with Emirati, and Emirati, the 2-horse, just did not offer much of anything. I did not know what to do with the winner, Emmanuel. Emmanuel had shown a lot of promise at various points throughout the career. I just couldn't pull the trigger, but Emmanuel's the number 6 here, making a really nice late run to get it done over Marquesi's Filo di Ariana, the 7-horse. Chez Pierre, the big favorite, winds up running 3rd. Chez Pierre was 2-5 coming out of a win in the Maker's Mark Mile, but could do no better than 3rd in here at a short price, with Emmanuel getting it done. As I say, had shown some promise early in the career, starting the career on the dirt for Todd Pletcher. A couple of wins early on, and then they tried the Fountain of Youth and wound up 4th in there. Tried the Bluegrass, wound up 3rd, and then they popped over to the turf, and the horse blossomed a little bit, but was overall, if you look at the PPs, a little bit inconsistent. Was coming out of a close-up 3rd in the dinner party down at Pimlico on Preakness weekend, but seemed to kind of step forward yesterday. We'll see. Yes, as I said, yesterday, all the stakes winners wound up with triple-digit buyers, so it's the first of the triple digits on the resume for Emmanuel, and he winds up with a square 100, just gets to that triple digit level. But maybe this horse is just kind of coming into his own. Again, this was a little grade 3 event, but Chez Pierre had won the grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile in the previous start. So it was a decent little field in here. We'll see where and when Emmanuel shows up next, and what they have planned as far as class-wise, how they'll proceed, but certainly looked good yesterday. And the day started out with the True North Grade 2 event, $250,000 for the sprinters, and this was another nice performance on the day. And again, a nice day for Belmont, certainly. But Elite Power, I put the horse on top coming out of the win over in the Middle East last time, and the win was over Gunite, who had run well a couple of weeks ago. Also, the Elite Power had won the Breeders' Cup Sprint wind up last year, so wound up last year going well and continued it, obviously, in the Mideast. But he's now riding, including yesterday, a 7-race win streak. Very impressive, obviously, for the Belmont runner. Elite Power getting it done in the True North over Anarchist. Strobe ran 3rd. Today's Flavor ran 4th. Elite Power is going to be the number 4 horse. A 102 buyer. The chart margin will wind up to be 1 3/4 lengths. The winning price, $3.50. So again, with the win streak, the betting public was on board pretty convincingly there, and the horse lived up to it, obviously. So again, one of the nice performances on the day. It just played out really, really nicely. Again, there was the unfortunate, obviously, incident in the 13th race that marred the day a little bit, but otherwise just a fabulous weekend of racing. And I just wanted to go back because I did mention In Italian, and I wanted to show that one as well, going back to Friday, because In Italian just, again, another one of the expected nice horses on the weekend and performed living up to that. This is the Just a Game from Friday. In Italian goes off as the 1-5 favorite for Chad Brown and Peter Brandt, and wins like that, just under 4 lengths. At the 1-5 price, and in Italian with a 103 buyer going back to Friday. Just really a spectacular performance there. One of, as I say, a number going back to Friday and Saturday, the couple of days. And we'll see, because as I say, the Racing Festival was supposed to start on Thursday. There was the cancellation due to air quality, but most of that action has been moved to today. So we'll see. I would expect the nice performances and the great stakes action to continue today as well. Speaking of today, I'm going to give you the Dark Horse Play of the Day, sponsored by our friends at the Dark Horse Mercantile. I mentioned it yesterday, Thursday night. I was at a little event up in Saratoga. Saratoga Living celebrated 25 movers and shakers in Saratoga. Our friend Kim Weir from the Thoroughbred Racing Foundation was one. Trainer Jim Bond was one. But also Marianne Barker and Maddie Zanetti from Dark Horse were among the 25 movers and shakers. You can pick up the latest edition of Saratoga Living magazine and see that's free. I think you can find them at all Price Choppers, but you can see that group written about in the magazine. But always recommend stopping at the Dark Horse Mercantile in downtown Saratoga, right on Broadway. A lot of fun. If you're going out on a nice afternoon and you're trying to think what to do, the Saratoga downtown is just very walkable and enjoyable. Places to eat and places to shop. And Dark Horse Mercantile, one of those. Stop in, see the apparel, the racing memorabilia and whatnot. You'll have fun browsing there. Go down the street to Impressions of Saratoga, their sister store. Enjoy that as well. They've been sponsors of this Dark Horse Play of the Day throughout the Triple Crown season. So I'm giving out my last play of the day for this Triple Crown season, but they'll be back for Saratoga. Of course, the Dark Horse Play of the Day worked out very well last year up at Saratoga, having a positive ROI. I will admit, Triple Crown season, I've been kind of floundering a little bit, but maybe we make up for it today because we have a price on the morning line. We'll see if that holds up. But this is a race that was rescheduled from Thursday. This was my Capital OTB Play of the Day Thursday, and it's still the Capital OTB Play of the Day, including a little exacta box as well. But the Dark Horse Play is the number 1 Dozen Diamonds by Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn last year, 81 first-time starters, 10 winners, 8 seconds, 5 thirds. So really good numbers with win early types for the sire. Dan produced a sibling called 12th Man that won its career debut. Now, that was 6 furlongs on the dirt, but 12th Man subsequently went 4 for 7 overall in the career, and the other 3 wins were on synthetic. They were all for trainer Mark Cassie, and Dozen Diamonds is going out for that one. So again, had this horse on top on Thursday. I'm going to stick with the horse on the redrawn race today, given the cancellation on Thursday. I admit I like the post position a little bit better the other day. The 1 is maybe a little bit of a concern, but I'll tell you, 5 furlongs, if the horse can get a decent little start and be in the mix, we'll be okay. So Dozen Diamonds on top. I have 3 more first-time starters that I thought were interesting. Precisely, Beads, and Mayfly. They all have a little bit of win early breeding. They also have some trainers that can have them ready. So again, a box up the exact in there as well. 1, 4, 6, and 5 is the way I see it. But the Dark Horse Play of the Day for this Sunday afternoon, number 1, Dozen Diamonds, race 7. Number 1, Dozen Diamonds, Dark Horse Play of the Day. All right. We will, before we go to the break, I should mention news this week. Linda Rice, who was sitting on a fine and a long suspension and has appealed that, and it was an ongoing and long process, and she continued to race, and people were scratching their chins, and how is Linda Rice racing, suspension and whatnot. Well, the appeal process goes to the courts. It just takes a long time. But this week, the court decided the penalty was too severe. They have sent it back now to the racing side of things to maybe re-adjudicate, take a look again at the penalty. But the suspension has been put aside. Linda Rice, in a Dave Grenig article yesterday, obviously very happy. And I must say, I have said right along, as people have asked me, what about the Linda Rice situation? I said, I thought the penalty was too stiff as well, just as a racing fan. I mean, they were penalizing her because they had said she was getting information from the racing office that allowed her to either not enter or scratch horses, depending on which other horses were entered. So she was getting unfair information. And as came out in the hearing, as the betting public, you look at the racing form and you see the horses that are in, and if her horses aren't in, it's not affecting you. You're handicapping the horses that are in. If other horsemen are saying she had an unfair advantage over them, I suppose that's another issue. But I'm a better in the racing public. So for me, it did seem like a stiff penalty, given the suspension, and a long suspension it was. So to me, the outcome was kind of justified. We shall see how it all plays out, because I think it still has some things to play out. But when I read the news this week, I thought, it seems fair, and let them take another look and come up with maybe something a little more reasonable if they're going to penalize. But the upshot is Linda Rice has been training right along, will continue to train now as the suspension has been put aside by the courts. All right, we will take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Tony Calo. We'll take a little look at the Monday action from Finger Lakes right after this. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Tony Calo for a little Monday preview of the Finger Lakes action. Tony, good morning. Before we get into other things, I will ask you, here in the Albany-Saratoga region, Tuesday and Wednesday, it was noticeable. You could see the haze in the air and you could smell the smoke. What was the situation out, towards Rochester and the Finger Lakes area as far as the air quality situation this week?
Very, very similar. It's funny, when I arrived in the booth on Monday, we had our facilities manager and a maintenance worker up on the crow's nest, and they had said they had noticed a little smoke from atop the roof, and we got up there and there was a very distinct smell, and we were sitting there trying to figure it all out, and somebody brought it to our attention that there had been a lot of fires in Canada, and they were like, this smells a little more electrical. But the more I think about it, I'm just wondering if that was like the prelude.
Yeah.
But by the time we got there Tuesday, it was extremely hazy, and Monday was hazy as well, and Tuesday was just turned up another notch. And then I've seen some of the apocalypse photos from New York City with the resemblance of Mars, and it was like pretty. it was the right decision to make. But it's tough enough when you only call Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Seth, you get a little rusty by the time you come back for Monday. I have not called a race since the 3rd on Tuesday, so fans, please bear with me tomorrow.
You'll do fine. We trust we trust in Tony. Before we get into Finger Lakes action, give us some thoughts on the weekend down in New York. I'm sure we were talking. You were watching obviously yesterday and whatnot. Your thought on Arcangelo, and I give all the credit to the horse. Great performance, nice ride. Javi gets his first Belmont. Jenna Antonucci becomes the first woman to win a Triple Crown race. Great stories there. Great stories all around on the weekend as well. But given what we've seen in the Triple Crown now and earlier this year, again, I've been saying it for a few weeks now. Boy, this 3-year-old crop is totally undefined. But what were your thoughts on the Belmont yesterday?
Well, I thought it was an awesome couple days of racing. They kept alluding to the 2 days as like an early Breeders' Cup. It was a June Breeders' Cup, and without a doubt, the racing was incredible. As a fan, I completely enjoyed it. It was a little chalky yesterday, but how can you take away any of the performances? Clariere outrunning search results, Arabian Lions performance. You know, I know I'm going to miss a few. Cody, unbelievable performance from Cody. What a monster, up to the mark and up and comer. And then you get the Belmont to conclude it all. Just a great day of racing. And anytime we can get history made, it's awesome. And as a fan, as a person who's devoted all of his life to this, I mean, basically since I was 8, 9, 10 years of age, I've really just been nothing but a student of the game, and I couldn't be more proud of it, what I saw the last couple of days.
Yeah, and I think you're similar to me. As a media guy, I look for great racing and whatnot, but it's, bonuses when you get great stories, and the weekend was full of those with Jenna Antonucci. And again, Javi kind of bookending the Triple Crown. First Derby and first Belmont Stakes. And I'm looking here. I got the buyers from yesterday in front of me. Cody's Wish continues his great run. Great story, great horse. A 112 buyer. Clariere, as you mentioned, that nice late run. She's phenomenal. That was a great story. Arabian Lion now inserts himself into the 3-year-old side of things. And one you didn't mention, but certainly a big performance yesterday. Another story. The girl beats the boys. Caravel was impressive yesterday as well. So there were great stories in addition to the great racing.
I didn't mention her because I had a win bet on Big Invasion.
I hear you.
But no, yes, she just like I said, both days incredible. Just some great racing. Absolutely enjoyed it.
I'm right with you, and I think it was borne out by handle numbers and whatnot. And I just had Steve Byk on, and he was down there, and he verified what the simulcast signal seemed to indicate: a big crowd, a crowd that included a lot of young people. So it was a great way to conclude the Triple Crown. And as I say, with the 3-year-old scene being undefined, it sets up kind of a fun summer. Jim Dandy, Haskell, Travers, Pennsylvania Derby. I think we have something to look forward to now as these 3-year-olds kind of square off and try to determine who's at the top of the class. And I will say, I think right now, I don't know whether his resume is good enough if we voted today, but I have to think most people would kind of agree that the nice performance yesterday, it was a second-place finish, but I still think Forte is probably the head of the class.
I just was about to allude to that you might say it's undefined. I think yesterday it might have become a little more defined than we believe. The performance Forte put in, very reminiscent of his Florida Derby where he looked to be defeated, and somehow this horse just finds another gear, the will to try to succeed with his final furlong. And for him to run that kind of a race off that layoff, going 1.5 miles, I told the people that were here at my house, and I've told people on the phone that I've talked to, that Forte is your Travers winner, and you can book it right now, brother.
Yeah, off the April 1st layoff. That was a big.
I just jinxed the poor horse. Unbelievable.
that was definitely a big performance, no question about it. All right, let's take a look at some of the action tomorrow at the Finger Lakes. We'll start off in the 6th. Nice, a field of 10 for maiden specials going 5.5. As I say, with this field, it looks kind of interesting. What did you see in the 6th tomorrow?
Well, I thought, for people that had bulkier bankrolls, 3, 4, and 5 are probably the 3 to key on. Initially I was going to promote Stormy's in Style. I believe I might have picked her on the 16th of May. I have a tendency to come back with my horses. It seems to me, I've noticed over the years, whenever I support a horse, that if they disappoint me, then they come back and run well for me the next time. Horse had a bad start, came with a little bit of a run. and I was inclined to go with her. And I was looking at the 5. You know, anytime I see a horse debut at Saratoga, I believe that is something you have to really respect. And the fact that she was a 4-1 in a field of 9 for her debut run hints that there must be a ton of ability. So I would give her a big look. But, you know, I base a lot of my handicapping over the years on company lines. And the more I looked at the 4's company lines, the more I was impressed. All the fillies that she ran against last year, I have a lot of respect for. Small Pebbles, I think, is a very talented filly. Wait, don't tell me. You throw in Warsaichi, you throw in Lockbox. And Princess Sonia came back to already defeat winners. She ran last week and showed a new dimension. You know, in all of her races, she had been up on the lead. And she had to overcome a little bit of a slow start, and she won from off the pace. The runner-up, Vroom Vroom, ran a very solid 3rd, and her next out after that 22nd of May affair, she really had a poor beginning and was finishing pretty strongly. And my gut feeling's telling me Vroom Vroom will probably get to the winner's circle the next time we see her. So with all that being said, I've landed on the 4, Ruby's Mission. We're going to try to spring up a tad of the upset at 4-1. She made up a little bit of ground against Princess Sonia and Vroom Vroom, and obviously needed that comeback race. And with all the good company lines, I said, you know what, let's try to swing a little bit of a price here for the fans. But 3, 4, and 5 would definitely be the 3 to key on if you're playing any of our exotics, our pick 6, pick 5, pick 4. But Ruby's Mission, my pick in the 6.
Yeah, and that you know, you talked about the 5 getting the debut at Saratoga. That jumps out to me as well. And you know, it seemed like you read the trouble line, maybe a little green in there. This is a New York bred, and that first race was against New York breds. Now the race tomorrow is open company, but the Tim Ham, who is not a Finger Lakes guy, and as you were talking, I pulled up over the next few days. Tim Ham has horses entered at Ellis, Presque Isle, at Thistledown, and Finger Lakes. So he's an out-of-town guy, and this horse has been working at Thistledown. That one's interesting to me. I'm going to be interested to see what the horse goes off at, though, because with that Saratoga line, if the 5-1 is there, I'll take a little pop on Boyish Shield Lady.
I would agree with it. I can't fault those go in that direction. You know, she's going to get Lasix for the first time, and it's a huge angle. It is a huge angle. I've been telling my friends out in California for a couple of years when they go to handicap, let's say at Gulfstream in the winter or Oaklawn or other places, I'm like, you know, give a lot of credence to the horses debuting at Saratoga, because everybody wants to win up at the spot. They're bringing good horses there. And the fact that she was 4-1, it wasn't like it was a field of 4 or 5, Seth. It was a field of 9. For her to go off at 4-1 in that debut run, they're telling you. And you know, with our purses are good. You know, people knock Finger Lakes. I growing up in California, I didn't know a lot about Finger Lakes as a kid. This was pre-simulcast years, but our maiden specials run for 32. There's extra money if you're a New York bred. You're running for some good cattle tomorrow, and that's why she's there. And 5-1 looks like a nice price. 3, 4, 5. I was very torn which direction to go with. Landed on the 4, slight endorsement. Couldn't fault anybody using all 3.
All right, sounds good. And you mentioned debuting up at Saratoga. I'll ask you, because as you mentioned that, it dawned on me there is a new condition, a couple of years old or whatnot, and you've already alluded to it. You've been around the game for a while as well, and I wonder. I think it's been a great addition, certainly up at Saratoga. But the maiden races that are restricted given the auction price, and so it's horses for a certain price or lower, so that there's a spot for horses to run where they don't have to go against the $1 million babies and whatnot. And I think it's worked out well, not just for owners, but I think it's been good for the fans too, putting together some fields that are maybe a little bit bigger and a little more competitive. As I say, smaller outfits get to choose a more logical spot.
Awesome. It's a great condition. Anytime you can do stuff like that, it's very difficult for a horse purchased for $10,000 to go to try to win against a $700,000 horse. I guess that's what makes yesterday even more special. Not only Jenna being the first woman to ever win a Triple Crown race, but here's a $35,000 yearling purchase a couple of years ago, going up against the big boys and winning it. It gives anybody who's ever been part of this game, whether it's owning, training, a groom. It just gives everybody that's the beautiful thing about horse racing. It does not discriminate, and there's always a chance something can happen.
Yeah, and that was another one of the great storylines, obviously, yesterday. On the owner side of things, as you say, giving other people the opportunity to look and say, hey, I could do that. I could be part of a horse like that. But also just Jenna Antonucci, not just the first woman, but somebody who's out there every day getting it done and not one of the bigger names on the racetrack gets an opportunity with a nice horse to win a big race like that. It was, again, a fun part of the day.
What's interesting is I read some quotes, I think it was this morning, about the owner talking about how he had horses with some of the bigger trainers and just didn't feel like that he was given, I don't know if the word respect is, but just the attention. Why you go to a smaller barn and you can receive all of that. And when you're a smaller owner, that goes a long ways. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Here we are in the era of super trainers that they all get all the good horses. There are so many good horsemen and horsewomen in this country that people don't even know their first initials. And it's people who love this game that got fascinated by it at a young age or however they got developed into it. And there are so many good horsemen and horsewomen that it's good to see smaller outfits get it done in situations like that.
Yeah, because that then emphasizes it, and I'm glad the owner said that because I think that is true. I think if you're a smaller guy and you're with one of these bigger outfits, you're going to just tend to, because of the nature of things, you're going to get overlooked a little bit. So yeah, shop out and go to these. And I also think that the Jimmy Jerkins story over the past couple of months is a little bit of an indictment of the industry. When a guy like Jimmy Jerkins can't make it work here and he has to go over to Saudi Arabia, you just have to shake your head.
I totally agree. It's a shame, and I don't know what the answers are. I don't really think you can force an owner to have to have his horses with a smaller outfit, but it sure would be nice. It would be nice if some of these bigger outfits maybe would say, "Hey, look, I would love to take you on. I'm a little overboard. Here's a couple smaller outfits that maybe you might want to think about," and that would be cool. But we know how it all works in this world.
No, and as you say, there aren't necessarily any easy answers, but you sit there and again, the Jimmy Jerkins thing, I was really shaking my head. All right, tomorrow also.
No, that really is.
Yeah, because he's as good as they get. All right, seventh race tomorrow, an allowance, non-winners of 3 lifetime, 1 mile and 70 yards. What are your thoughts on tomorrow's 7th?
Not going to get much value. I'm going to go with the 5. I picked the 5 last time he won on the 24th of May. He's a big, strong Tiz now with some Henry the Navigator blood underneath. He's won a couple of races sprinting at Finger Lakes, but his second to Date's Freedom on the 18th of October was a very, very good route race. They might have brought him back. I can't say they brought him back a little quick, but he just might have bounced a little off that effort, and he ran a 3rd in his next outing. He's a big, strong horse. He's got a race under his belt. While I think his main nemesis, the 4 Jitter Juice, who I have a lot of respect for, has to overcome the layoff. I think it's a 2-horse race. I'm going to give you the 5, but wouldn't be surprised if the 4 runs a big one also. The 4 has done really nothing wrong. On the 9th of August, I love Kevin Navarro. I think he's a great jockey. I don't think the tactics were the greatest that day, and I'll come out and say it. And as soon as they went to Koa, the horse won by double digits and ran 3 good races or 2 good races thereafter. But the fact that the 5's got the race under his belt, I'm going to go with him. But I would not be surprised if the 4 does beat him. Those are the 2 to use if you're playing any of our, like I said, our multi-race gimmicks.
Very good, Tony.
Giving you guys, as always, not giving you guys a lot of info. If you want to take a little sneaky play in the 5th. I thought the 1 was somewhat intriguing at 8-1. The fact that the horse graduated against maiden 5s and Jeff is stepping it up to 11. I always like when I see positive moves like that. You would think if Jeff didn't think much of the horse that the horse would be in for 5. In fact, he's stepping it up to 11. Gets this bug girl Melissa Iorio is the correct pronunciation. I've been told the weight's going to be light. I like the debut run at 8-1. That was a little sneaky long shot look, but other than that, it's hard sometimes for me to find prices for you guys on Mondays, and I apologize because I'm not a chalk eating weasel by any measures.
And also, I mean, just sometimes it's hard, 24 hours out. Is it a horse you like and you think, I don't know about this one, may wind up being 4 or 5 to 1, and you think, I could have tossed out. So I totally understand. But
I appreciate you throwing that disclaimer out for me, because I do come across that way sometimes. I'll be like, geez, I gave this horse out on Capital OTB, but now 24 hours after watching more replays and getting a little more into it, I can find myself swaying my opinion a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
no,
I one of these days I'm hoping one of these days that I'll be able to give you guys a nice 8 or 10 to 1 shot that I absolutely love and we can all cash. But
we'll see.
Patience is a virtue, I suppose.
We'll see what the 1 does in race number 5. All right, Tony, as always, we appreciate the conversation, the thoughts on tomorrow. And again, Finger Lakes now in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. So we'll be tuned in certainly and enjoying the action over the next few days. And we'll talk to you next week.
As always, Seth, we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to endorse our racetrack. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you. Tony Calo from the Finger Lakes. All right, we're going to wrap it up for this Sunday morning. Great action again coming up a little bit later on at Belmont. As again, they have some stakes action that was shifted from Thursday to today. So nice card at Belmont. We'll take a look at some Monmouth as well. And as usual on a Sunday, I'm just looking up at my monitor here and watching replays from Saratoga Harness. Pull a little Saratoga Harness in a little bit later on as well. So I will wrap it up for this Sunday morning, but invite you back. And with Saratoga Harness, sometimes depending on the NYRA pregame show, I can jump in and get some early thoughts on Saratoga. If so, we'll be back noontime. And if the NYRA pregame is kind of making that difficult, I'll come back on probably closer to 12:30 or so. So mark your calendar. We'll be in that lunchtime time frame one way or the other, taking you through the afternoon with some very nice racing. Seth Merrow in the studio. Always appreciate your tuning in. Racing Across America on a Sunday morning with some recaps and more. A little preview and review. Preview with some Finger Lakes action, review with the recaps from yesterday. So hopefully you appreciated all the conversation, and we invite you to tune back in again, an hour and a half or so for OTB Live on a Sunday afternoon. We'll see you then. We would like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine's 2023 Thoroughbred Stakes program has more than $17 million in purses, including 39 graded stakes, 5 Grade 1 events, and 2 $1 million classics, the King's Plate and the Woodbine Mile. Woodbine, now through December, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.